This is going to be, again, a very high-stakes meeting now with all of these other world leaders coming to Washington. I want to bring in Georgia Congressman and member of both the House Foreign Affairs and Armed Services Committees, Rich McCormick. Great to have you here, Congressman. Welcome to Sunday Report. Tomorrow, huge day at the White House. Zelenskyy, you've got other European leaders now all there. What's your takeaway from the summit in Alaska? What happens tomorrow?
It's great questions, and I've also been on the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. I've actually voted in NATO, met with Zelenskyy in Kyiv, so I feel like right at the center point of all this discussion. I've been watching Putin, what he's done for years, even when he was a KGB agent for the Soviet Union. Not a guy that you really want to trust. It is interesting to hear him actually admit that if Trump was president, this never would have happened in the past, and I've asserted that as well. As a matter of fact, if Trump was president, I don't think they would have even went into Crimea like they did when Obama was president. So weakness always results in war. That's been a steadfast thing of a history professor like myself. When you look at war, when you have strength, it really does equal a peace. That's kind of the Reagan initiative, too, that Trump has mirrored. I don't trust Putin. This whole quick reaction force that they're talking about in the negotiations is something that we actually negotiated in the Budapest Accords that Russia actually signed when Ukraine agreed to give up their nuclear arms. So there's nothing new there. I'll be very curious to see what, if any, land mass are going to cede to Russia. That'll be the sticking point, of course, because Russia wants as much as they can get. Realize that Ukraine is a top 5 nation in the world in resources. 70% of Europe's grain is produced there. They have tons of cobalt, lithium, uranium, you name it. This is going to be high stakes.
Congressman, why do you think that these other world leaders now want to be part of this? This was originally supposed to be President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelenskyy that were going to have this conversation. Now you've got these other world leaders coming. Do you expect that they're going to stand behind Ukraine or potentially spoil this whole thing? Why are they there? And what do you make of them going?
Based on the NATO meetings I was at, they're very resolute. They understand that's just a step closer that Russia would be to Europe. The whole reason we formed NATO to begin with was because of Russian aggression. Realize this is a country that has a little over $2 trillion in GDP, and Europe has about $20 trillion in GDP, and yet they feel actually worried about this aggressor, somebody who's putting about 9% of their GDP into their military, somebody who's obviously postured, who's threatened Lithuania, Estonia, basically the Balkans. This is a country they don't trust, and that's why they've come in resolution to go against Russia and show that they are standing with Ukraine. And that's what I expect to see during these meetings.
We had Secretary of State Marco Rubio on the morning shows today, and he said that they're not really all that close to a deal. The goal going into the summit on Friday was for President Trump to get the ceasefire. That did not happen. Do you think that we're further ahead, though, now that we know what Russia wants? Ukraine's now at the table. Where do you gauge where we're at in terms of lasting peace?
Well, let's be realistic. We've always known what Russia wanted. Russia wanted Ukraine to fold. They wanted Zelenskyy to leave, like Biden actually said. Biden actually offered him to come to the United States and get out of Ukraine. If that would have happened, that country would have folded in about the first few weeks, quite frankly. But he didn't. He stood firm. A lot of people criticized him, but that really made a difference in this outcome. Russia wants as much territory as possible. Zelenskyy, when you talk to him, says he shouldn't have any of it. These are known borders that were solved a long time ago. Why should Russia get this land? But something's going to be in between. I think Putin's asking for more than he should so that he can have a compromise and get something out of this, because otherwise he's done all this for nothing. But tens of thousands of people died. Actually, you've had 1 million casualties in Russia now. You've had 40,000 Korean troops committed. This has cost the world a lot of money and lives. And I would love to see an end to this quickly.
And the fighting still continues as there was more attacks since that Friday summit. I want to pivot to Capitol Hill, though, Congressman. We'll watch to see what happens tomorrow. We'll wait. But there is a new report that's accusing Democrat Senator and member of the House Intel Committee, Adam Schiff, of authorizing leaks of classified information to disrupt President Trump's image during his first term. So, Congressman, I mean, is this finally Adam Schiff, President Trump has said saying this all along, that he's been leaking this information? He was on all of the left-wing media pushing that Russia, Russia, Russia narrative. Will we ever get any, will there be any, will anybody be held accountable?
Yeah, I would love to see that. We don't have too many scalps. As much as we've had exposure, transparency, we've shown that medias have been used by the government against us, which is communist in theory. What we have observed in communist nations has happened here in America recently. COVID was a great excuse used by the Biden administration to use it against its people and its former president. Now that all this is exposed, I've been talking to lawyers about what is the consequences. Is this treason? What has he done that's been illegal, and can we actually get a scalp? I'd love to see somebody go to jail because I'm tired of this stuff being used, especially when the government's used against people, against a former president, trying to disrupt the future of America. I'd love to see this guy put in jail.
And to your point, no heads have rolled yet, no one's in handcuffs. But to your point about the political games that go on behind the scenes, putting someone in jail, would that set a precedent and potentially change things in Washington?
I think this is the whole problem that we have to begin with, is we don't have a precedence of putting people in jail who are in politics. Hillary Clinton should have been in jail. Let's face it. She smashed evidence against a subpoena, absolutely broke the law multiple times, and had zero accountability. Now, of course, has been pardoned. So that is a problem in and of itself. When you can get away with smaller things or even big things, of course you're going to do it again. And that's why we want to make sure we have voting integrity. That's why we want to have accountability on politicians who lie, cheat, and break the law. That shouldn't be permitted. And as soon as we actually get a scalp, when we put somebody in jail, then I think that stuff will definitely decrease, if not cease.
I want to get to this too. FBI Director Kash Patel, he declassified an internal memo. He put this out on X, revealing that during the Obama administration, DOJ officials were blocked from investigating the Clinton Foundation. Your takeaway from this?
Again, abuse of power, cover-ups. This is as bad as it gets. This is what we talk about when we say a banana republic, when we talk about a government being used against its people. Time and time again, and by the way, it's countless. Remember when the FBI were investigating anybody who donated to the Republican Party as an organization? That was during the Obama era. This has been going on for decades.
Yeah.
It needs to stop. We've been targeted as Republicans, as conservatives. If we don't fight back, if we don't get some scalps, I just fear that the next time we flip it as a government, will be punished as a result.
Very well said. Georgia Congressman Rich McCormick, thank you so much for coming on Sunday. I appreciate it. Great insight there on both those topics.
Always a pleasure. Semper Fi.